All right, this is Mrs. Nasland, and today we'll be doing Unit 11, Lesson 6, Number Lines and Rounding. Our learning objectives for the day are: I can read and interpret decimal numbers presented on a number line. I can round decimals in hundredths to the nearest tenth, and I can round decimals in tenths to the nearest whole number. So let's go ahead and start by looking at this number line. And it says the number line below shows one whole divided into tenths. So you'll see we're at 0, goes up to 1, and then they divide it into 10 sections. Okay, so we've got 1 tenths, 2 tenths, 3 tenths, all the way up to 9 tenths, and then 1 whole. So let's go ahead and look at this. It says, what decimal tenths is marked by the turtle? So look at the turtle, and I see that he's marked by 3 tenths. All right. Now, the butterfly is between 2 decimal tenths. To which tenth is it nearer? So look at the butterfly, and it's between 5 tenths and 6 tenths. And the question is, to which tenth is it closer? Okay, so we're going to start thinking about rounding a little bit. And we decide that it's closer here, right? It's closer to the 5 tenths than it is to the 6 tenths. Okay, so it's closer to the 5 tenths. Now, the bird is also between 2 decimal tenths. The space between these tenths has been divided into hundredths. What decimal hundredths are between 8 tenths and 9 tenths? So you see what they did here is that between 8 tenths and 9 tenths is they put 10 little slashes, or made 10 little gaps there. And we've got to figure out which hundredths, and these represent hundredths, which hundredths it falls in. So very carefully we count these. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 hundredths. It goes over 7 hundredths. So I would say that it is 87 hundredths over. Right? Let's see how we did there. Oh, they actually wanted us to list it. Okay, so if we had to list all of those little dots, we'd say we've got 81 hundredths, 82 hundredths, 83, 84, 85 hundredths, 86, 87, 88, and 89 hundredths. Now, which decimal does that little duck fall in? If we look at it really closely, I think it is the 87 hundredths. All right, good. Now, to which tenths is the hundredths nearer? This is the way you round a hundredth to the nearest tenth. So even though I have this hundredth, it says 87 hundredths. Which tenth is it closest to? And look at this, and it's closest to 9 tenths. Okay. The other way to look at it is if I actually see 87 hundredths, just like we would round whole numbers, I go ahead and look at the back number, and since it's 5 or greater, I'm going to round the number next to it up. So since it's greater than 5, I'm going to round this up to 9 and make it 9 tenths. Okay, so plopping it on the number line and checking, or just looking at the number behind it can also help you round it. All right, let's practice some more. What hundredth is marked by the circle? Okay, so right now, again, these big numbers are tenths. They want to know what hundredth is written here. So I know that the 4 is going to be in the 10th spot because it's between the 4 and the 5. And I've got to count them over really carefully. So we've got 41 hundredths, 42 hundredths, 43 hundredths, 44 hundredths, 45 hundredths, 46 hundredths, 47 hundredths, and 48 hundredths. So I'm going to say that the ball is at 48 hundredths. Now, round this hundredth to the nearest tenth. So go ahead and think about that. Write that down on your whiteboard. Is it closer to the 4 tenths or 5 tenths? And then also look at 48 hundredths and think about how you would round it. All right. If you came up with 5 tenths, you're right. So again, it's closer to 5 tenths on the number line. But also, if I look at the 8 in 48 hundredths, I know that's bigger than 5. And so that means the number to the left of it I get to round up, which is that 4. I get to round it to 5, which gives us 5/10. All right. Now, when you want to round a number that is exactly halfway between two rounding units, round up to the next greater number. Okay, so look at this triangle. And I count over, it's between 7/10 and 8/10, but it would be 71, 7,100, 7,200, 7,300, 7,400, 7,500. It's right in the middle, exactly between 7/10 and 8/10. And when that happens, again, if it's 5 or greater, you round up. So we're going to go ahead and round that one up, even though it's right in between. We're going to round it up. First I've got to write what it is. We said it was 7,500. But since it's right in between, we're going to round it up to the nearest tenths, which is 8. Again, look at that spot, and then I can go ahead and round it up. All right, so we're going to try a little bit more on your own here. So let's look at this first one. It says, what decimal number is marked by the hat? Okay, so first I want to point out that all of these are whole numbers, right? So I'm going to count how many lines in between. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 whole numbers. So these are all little tenths along the way. So I want you to see if you can figure out which decimal number is marked by that hat. All right, so let's see how you did. If you ended up saying 2 3/10, you were right on because it was 1, 2, 3 over. So it's 2 3/10. Now they want us to round this number to the nearest whole. So go ahead and pause the video and tell us what you'd get. All right, if you got 2, you're right on because 3 is less than 5, and so I'm going to keep this number the same, which would give me a whole of 2. All right. Number 9, it says find 4.5 on the number line. Put an arrow there. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to find 4.5. So we've got 4. We're going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to add an arrow right there. All right, 4.5. And then it says, what is 4.5 rounded to the nearest whole? All right, so go ahead and pause and see if you can figure that one out. All right, now, if you said 4.5 rounded to the nearest whole is 5, then you were right on. Because remember, if it's right in between, if it's 5 or above, 4.5, then you're going to round up to 5. All right, what is 4.5 or 4 5/10 expressed as a decimal in the hundredths? So remember what we talked about in 11.5, that it doesn't matter if you add those extra decimals. So I have 4.5, 4 5/10. They want it in the hundredths form. So how do I make that into the hundredths form? All I have to do is add a 0, because remember, that doesn't change the value of the number. It's just the way they say it. So now I have 4 50 hundredths, okay, which is still the same as 4 5/10. All right. The ruler below shows centimeters in tenths of centimeters. All right. So it says, how long is the string above the ruler? So how long is this string? Go and pause the video. If you wrote down 7 centimeters, you were right on. Now, how long is the string below the ruler to the nearest tenth of a centimeter? So I look below the line here. I know it's past 8, and I'd say it's about 1 or 2 past 8. So it's 8.2. I was right on centimeters. Now go ahead and round your answer to the nearest centimeter. How would I round 8.2 to the nearest centimeter? If you said 8, you were right on, because 2 is less than 5. So I look at the number left and I get to keep it the same, which means I leave it at 8 centimeters. All right, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to practice rounding both to the tenths and to the whole number. So let's go ahead and look at these. It says round to the nearest tenth. I'll do 2 and then I'll have you do 2. So I look here, and right there's my tenth spot, there's my hundredth. I look at this number, the hundredth spot, and it's less than 5. And because it's less than 5, I look to the left, and I know I get to keep this number as it is. So this ends up being 0 and 7 tenths. Okay, now how about this one? Again, I look at my hundredth spot, the last number, or the number right before, I should say, the tenth spot. That's the important part. Look at the number right before where you're trying to round it to, or sorry, right after, let me clarify, right after the number you're trying to round it to, which is 5. And if it's 5 or above, then I get to round this number up. So in this case, it is 5 or above, so I'm going to round it to 4 tenths. All right, on your own, go ahead and try number 14. All right, so we have 91 hundredths. Look at this number. And since it's less than 5, I know that when I go and I look at this left number, I get to leave it as it is. So I end up with 9 tenths. And in this case, they want us to round to the nearest tenth. So again, I find my tenth spot, which is right here, this 0, and I look at the number right behind it, which is this 9. All right. Now 9 is definitely above 5, so I get to round this number up. Okay, so I end up with 2 and 1 tenth. All right. Now, how about this? It says, what is 56 cents rounded to the nearest tenth of a dollar or dime? So same thing. I'm going for the tenth. I'm looking at that 5 spot. I look right behind it, and it's a 6. So since 6 is bigger than 5, I know I have to round my tenth spot up. So it's going to end up being 0.6, or put a 60 behind it, 60 cents. All right, now this time we get to round to the nearest whole number. So I find my whole number, I look to the right of it, it's an 8. All right, 8 is bigger than 5, so I get to round up. And so I'm going to round it to 4. All right, how about this one? I want to look at my whole number here, and I'm going to look to the right of it, and it's 7. 7 is also bigger than 5, so I get to round this number up. So instead of it being 32, it ends up being 33. All right, go ahead and try number 19, 12.5. All right, and look to the number to the right of my whole number. It's a 5. 5 and above, I round up, so I would make my 12 turn into a 13. Got 13, way to go. And lastly, go ahead and try number 20. Again, we're trying to round to the whole number. All right, so I look here. I see that the number right to the right of it is 2. All right, and 2 is definitely less than 8, or sorry, less than 5. So I get to keep the number the same. So in this case, it turns into 8. All right, what is $7.28 rounded to the nearest dollar? So my dollar is here. So again, I'm going to look to the right, and in this case, it's a 2. And go ahead and tell me, what whole dollar do you think it would go to? You said $7, then you were right on, because 2 is less than 5. And so then I get to keep my 7 the same. So today we talked about number lines and how to find decimals on the number line, and then also about rounding to the nearest tenths and whole number. Great work.